Crossing the Bar. Sunset and evening star and one clear call for me. And may there be no moaning of the bar when I put out to sea, but such a tide as moving seems asleep, too full for sound and foam, when that which drew from out the boundless deep turns again home. twilight and evening bell, and after that the dark. And may there be no sadness of farewell when I embark. For though from out our bourne of time and place the flood may bear me far, I hope to see my pilot face to face when I have crossed the bar.
Thank you very much, everybody. Please do be seated. Well, it's a great privilege indeed for me to be asked to lead this service. We've gathered together to remember, to honour, to celebrate and to farewell Peter Leslie Croucher. And on behalf of Mark, brothers, sisters, family, thank you very much for being here. It was a remarkable life, a much loved life. The number of people that we have here testifies to that, but also just the beauty of that entrance. I've done over 1,000 funerals, I suppose, in the last 10 years, and very few that have that sense of honour as we entered today. So on behalf of family, as I said, thank you, and I want to make a note too to thank the members of family and friends that are with us from really all around the world. In the United Kingdom here, of course, in Australia, who will recognise my accent, no doubt, and not confuse it with a New Zealander. From those in America, all across the world, we're very thankful that you're here, and we hope that you feel very much a part of this very special service. I'm going to open with a very simple prayer today. Dear Father God, we want to say thank you for Peter very much. He brought light into our lives. His kindness, his wonderful gifts, and his style of life touched everybody here. And we're thankful. Now we'd like to ask for your strength and comfort as we go through this very important service together. Amen. Well, I hope that everybody has what is a really beautiful, impressive order of service. I think we had enough. Mark put all those together, and so you've got lots of beautiful little photographs and important emblems and icons. And we have words that have been put together. Really, I want to thank all the family, and particularly Mark, Alan, Margaret and Don, who all have contributed so much to help me. And I do trust that these words will bring appropriate honour to Peter today. Peter was one of 11 children, 9 boys, just 2 girls. 5 of those are still alive: George, Michael, Margaret, Donald and Alan. Now, a family of 11 back in the 50s was challenging, to say the least. Many of them, when they were young, topped and tailed in the beds spread through the house. And I think it was Donald that told me that when it was really cold, they would cover themselves in the old man's overcoat just to try and stay warm. Alan remembers how much Peter enjoyed St Philip's and St James's Church as a lad. He joined the AYPA, which is the Anglican Young People's Association, and he met and became friends with Ken, or Kenny Williams, a very famous part of Peter's life. Now, Kenny's parents had bought him a B&O, Bang & Olufsen tape deck, which was a very popular piece of equipment, not just for him, but also for Peter. He was quite well known for blasting his neighbours with the music. And Peter became friends with Ken. Now, we're not really 100% sure of what the motive was, but certainly the music system was part of it. He was invited and used this B&O equipment, which is almost like a music centre, at the church youth group at the AYPA. Now, once Peter had finished school as a young man, he was a labourer at Ivy Bridge Estate with his brother David. He then went on to the bakers, John Quills, in High Street in Whitton for probably about 2 years. and then on to the Feltham Hotel, where he was the commies chef. At the same time as these things were happening, Pete and Kenny got themselves their own equipment. 2 turntables, an amp, and they first called themselves Disco 2. This is back in the 70s when all those things were becoming new, fashionable, popular. Now, initially, of course, in their teens, Peter was always the front man, no doubt about that. He had the gift of the gab. Kenny Williams was the techie guy. And brother Alan was also a very good friend and hung out with these guys in those early years. Later, the name changed to what many of you will remember, Wormtongue, which were a local and pretty successful mobile disco operation. They used to do that many evenings in the week whilst they worked during the day. Now, it was whilst he was working as in Wormtongue in a pub in Wembley that a scout from P&O saw Pete. And he thought he had real talent, and he was right. So he went up and asked him if he'd be interested in doing this kind of thing on cruise liners. Well, it won't be any surprise to all of you to know that he jumped at that. And he started doing that kind of disco work, but he moved on to another number of other things, singing, entertaining, all kinds of ways over the years. And ended up, of course, moving right through the ranks to becoming a very popular cruise director. He was with P&O for somewhere between 15 and 20 years, and they were enormously important years of his life. He loved his life on board. Now, when he retired from P&O, he did receive, I understand from the family, a quite a nice pension, but he kept doing some work as well. He was still fairly young, so at that time, Alan offered him some work in the film set area. So he worked as an assistant plaster with Alan and on a lot of films. Some of you may or may not know that. Saving Private Ryan, Sleepy Hollow, Band of Brothers, Gosford Park, Cinderella and many others. I'm sure he would have made a very good cameo, but I'm not sure that he did get that. They all had a great time together. It was after that he decided to do a computer course, but not really a passion for him, not like his entertainment work and the cruise directing that he'd done so popularly and so well for so many years with P&O. Now, in a short while, you'll see, after our middle reflection, we're going to hear from Ray Kalori, who was a very important part of the P&O operation for many years and a very close friend of Peter's. He'll bring his own stories and his own memories. But before that, I have some tributes and memories from the family that I'd like to share with you. Donald recalls he was just a fabulous entertainer, very slick. He could speak to anybody at any level. So whether that was very important, so to speak, people or just regular folks, he had the gift of the gab with all of them. Back in 1991, Donald tells this story. Some of you might know, but some of you will really enjoy this. He was on leave from P&O and it was June the 5th. And for horse betting people, that was an important date. Pete loved the horses, he loved a flutter, as did Donald. And Peter was due to fly back that day to Los Angeles and back to work. Don worked at the airport. So Don picked him up, took all his gear to Terminal 4, check it in, and then off they went for a few beers together at a pub near or a watering hole, I think was the term, near the airport. It was Derby Day, and Pete had a horse that he really wanted to back. But time ran out there in the pub, so he gave it to Don to place the bet for him. And Don knew the bookies runner that was at the pub. So he gave Don a tenner and told him to put it on Generous, who was at 8-1. Don's very good with these details. Don was waiting at the pub for the bookies runner, but the bookies runner didn't show, and Don forgot all about the bet. 9 months later, Peter returns from a cruise and asks Don, "Have you got something for me?" "Ah," he says, "so sorry, I forgot." It turned out that Generous won the Derby, And that was the only Derby winner that Peter had ever had in his life. So every year at Derby time, Pete would bring up this story with Don. He really liked a beer and he liked his horses. There was also a great day they had together, a very good day, a day that you might remember it, the day Frankie Dettori set a record and rode 7 winners in one day. Now Pete had, according to Don, he liked all 7 of those. He didn't bet on all, but he did bet on 5 of the 7. So he had a very good day indeed, thank you. With the winnings, he bought himself a huge king-size bed, and he used to love lying on that and saying, "I'm sleeping on the bookies' money." Margaret remembers these young boys larking about when they were young. There was 9 of them and only 2 girls. She remembers Peter as a very, very kind soul, someone who would do anything for anybody, always popular and very funny. He was always very good to his mum. She really wanted, in Margaret's words, wanted for nothing. He took her on a cruise. He treated her like the Queen, really looked after her. He was a very social person. It was he and Alan, and then with the family, they would organise this annual big bonfire night. He used to work with Alan on this, and they'd get the music timed to the fireworks. It was a bit of an operation, but it was a very special thing, and all the family will remember that with great affection. He loved the social events. He was always kind to the neighbours, always inviting them in, loved to have a big gig, as he used to call it, with the neighbours and friends. Margaret remembers going on a cruise ship with him and just being astounded at how brilliant he was in that role. His character was brilliant. And he was always very kind to the people. He won a lot of hearts that way. He was also, I'm reliably informed, a little bit stuck in his ways. So when it comes to going to the doctor, that was something he wasn't keen to do at all. Margaret remembers the time he bought his mum a duck. I asked her what that was for. Did she ask for it? No, she didn't ask for it, but he was just feeling generous, so he bought her a duck. Kind-hearted. Now, the funniest thing Margaret remembers is that this duck grew to hate Peter. So every time he'd come home and he'd go and see Mum, it'd chase him up the garden. He was always generous, not just to Mum, but his whole family. They wanted for nothing. And Margaret remembers just Mum's 80th and what a special time that was and how good he was to her. He also collected for the Poppy Day appeal, as some of you will know, for 15 years and actually raised a record amount for the Hanworth British Legion. He would be out there in all weathers, no matter what. And I believe that today we will have a Poppy appeal box at the end of the service, and probably that'll move on to the pub afterwards for those that might like to contribute if you want to. Alan and Linda, remember what a character he was. The life and soul of the party is the description. Lots of parties, often hosted by Alan and Linda, but he was the guy that would turn up and just make it hum. He was brilliant. Very eloquent, the gift of the gab, and able to make everybody feel special. Peter enjoyed Christmas Day every year with Alan and Linda. And one of the most famous stories, and we end with this story today, is one when Peter was playing dominoes with his brother John. Now, there was a difference of opinion, evidently, in this dominoes game, and the game finished very abruptly. So Peter retired to the garden, kind of quietly, for a cigarette. John also went out. And then a little later, Angela joined them and exclaimed, "Peter has fallen into the pond." There was pondweed all over him. He was soaking wet. And this story remained a mystery in the family for many years. It was actually not until John's wife, Jean, sadly passed, when evidently John was feeling maybe a tinge of remorse, that John confessed to Daisy Peter had cheated at dominoes and John had indeed pushed him into the pool. Fantastic. Thank you very much to the family for all the time they've put in to helping us bring those memories. I know you'll have your own memories, many of you, and there'll be an opportunity, of course, at the close of the service to go and have a drink together at the pub. The details are in the order of service. I'll mention it later. But thank you very much for helping me to put those words together. As I mentioned, Ray Kalori will come up in a short while, but before we do that, we've got a special series of photos. Mark's organised all these things, and we're going to have those put together with a piece of music that will mean a lot called That's Entertainment. And so for the next 3.5 minutes or so, we all hope that you enjoy these very much and think of Peter. Thank you.
Everything that happens in life can happen in a show. You can make 'em laugh, you can make 'em cry. Anything can go. The clown with his pants falling down, or the dance that's a dream of romance,
or the scene where the villain is mean. That's entertainment.
The lights on the lady in tights,
or the bride with the guy on the side,
or the ball where she gives him roll. That's entertainment. The plot can be hot, simply teeming with sex. A gay divorcee who is after her ex.
It could be Oedipus Rex, where a chap kills his father and causes a lot of bother.
The clerk who is thrown out of work
By the boss,
who is thrown for a loss by the skirt, who is doing him dirt. The world is a stage, the stage is a world of entertainment. That's entertainment. That's entertainment. While the jury is out, or the thrill when they're reading the will, or the chase for the man with the face. That's entertainment.
The dame who is known as the flame
of the king of an underworld ring.
He's an ape who won't let her escape. That's entertainment.
might be a fight like you see on the screen.
A swain getting slain for the love of a queen.
Some great Shakespearean scene where a ghost and a prince meet, and everyone ends in mincemeat.
No death, like you get in Macbeth. No ordeal, like the end of Camille. This goodbye brings a tear to the eye. The world is a stage, the stage is a world of entertainment.
That was fantastic. Real pleasure and honour to welcome Ray, who's going to come now and share his own stories about Peter. That's all set up for you there, sir. Yeah. You need any mic?
You got the big one, I got the small one. Oh, careful, 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 steady. Steady as it goes. Oh my goodness. It's very unusual for a eulogy to start with some apologies, but I have a couple. First to the Croucher family, because I'm going to refer to Peter as Crouch or Croucher. And I assure you, this, as you know, Linda, this was a term of endearment that was bestowed upon a few who he actually liked. But most people at sea, over all these years, called him Crouch or Croucher. The second is not really an apology, but I'm going to do my best to avoid any colourful language, which I must admire, you did very well. I'm going to try to avoid any colourful language in this hallowed building, which is quite challenging when recounting Croucher memories and stories, trust me. We've heard some wonderful words today from the family, his biological family. I guess I, along with many others, were part of his logical, seagoing family, some of whom are here today, and some of whom, fantastically, interrupted their vacation and travel plans to be here to say goodbye to Crouch. So I just wanted to mention them, actually, because I thank you, Paula Loughlin, Joy Casaroo, Tody Pollandine, Neil Sace, and John Lawrence. Thank you for making this journey today to say goodbye. Our first meeting was back in 1984, and it was rocky, to say the least. He disliked me intensely and made no secret of it. I was the educated twat from the West End, and he was the working class lad from Whitton who'd made good. But once he realised that I wasn't after his job, or, God forbid, his body, we forged a bond that lasted a lifetime. Crouch was someone who chose his friends very, very carefully. If you earned his trust, he was fiercely loyal. But if you crossed him, well, you better hope you were wearing your shin pads, because he could cut you off at the knees with a single look or a word. Crouch was as you've said, a consummate entertainer, honing his craft as a disc jockey on P&O ships and then working his way up over the years to eventually becoming cruise director with Princess Cruises. You wouldn't dare call him anything other than a professional showman. Crouch could twist an audience around his little finger, and I watched him do it time and time again, with the same smooth ease as pouring himself a glass of red wine, or a Guinness, depending on the time of the day. He was very proud of his merchant seaman career, and I think that's where a lot of his true grit came from. He was also very proud of his roots, and so proud of his extensive and extended family, always regaling us with stories about the events at Cedar Avenue and the shenanigans that occurred there over many parties and barbecues, none of which I was invited to, by the way. I was, however, fortunate to meet some of you over the years and admired the evident closeness of the Croucher clan. The way he talked about his family, you could tell that they were the true anchor in his life. Now, don't get me wrong, Crouch was no saint, far from it. He had his vices, most of which we can't discuss today. He loved his Guinness, his red wine, and his Dunhill Internationals, of course. Despite my and many others' attempts to convince him to cut back, he carried on defiantly enjoying what he called his pieces of heaven. And really, who were we to argue? It was Croucher's world. We were just living in it. One of his greatest characteristics was his authenticity. He never pretended to be anything other than who he was. There was no agenda, no affectation, no false humility. He was just himself, and that's why we loved him. He had a way of telling you the truth, whether you wanted to hear it or not. But that's what real friends do. That said, he could also be exasperating, and I've got a couple of very short stories just to illustrate that. And many years ago, we took a trip to Las Vegas, and with a couple of friends, and we had purchased premium tickets for a private box at a Celine Dion concert. Top of the line stuff. One of our party had to cancel at the last minute because they were sick. So Crouch, ever the problem solver, volunteered to sell the extra ticket outside the venue. Don't worry, I've got it. You boys go in, take a seat, relax. I'll be in a minute. We left him to it, settled into our lovely seats. 10 minutes goes by, 20 minutes goes by, Celine singing. Half an hour goes by, 45 minutes goes by. Well, in the middle of My Heart Will Go On, a commotion breaks out outside the box, and we hear a gentleman, obviously addressing Crouch, saying, "Sir, I'm terribly sorry, Mr. Croucher, but Miss Dion insists that nobody enter the auditorium while she's singing." To which he replied, "Bollocks to that. I'm a ticket holder. In fact, I've got 2 tickets." Only Crouch could manage to miss half the show because he went for a drink. Failed to sell the ticket and still feel like he was the one being wronged. And the second one, and this, oh my goodness, I mean, we were flying to Spain. I mean, Crouch and I just travelled so many times together over 40 years. I mean, it was just astonishing. But this was a particular holiday to Spain, to Sitges. And the night before, we spoke on the phone for a long time, and I reminded him, I said, "Crouch, the flight's at 7:45 a.m, so 6 o'clock outside Terminal 3. Be there." And yes, don't worry, Kaluri. He always called me Kaluri. "Don't worry, Kaluri, I'll be there, suited and booted." Well, cut to the chase. After being dropped off by Kevin in his cab, and unbeknownst to me, he decided to go directly to the lounge, leaving me. I'd arrived just shortly after that, of course, leaving me waiting for him outside the terminal, trying to call him on his mobile, calling his flat, calling Alan, thinking something had happened to him. He finally answered his mobile at 7:15 a.m. The flight's at 7:45. I'm still outside the terminal. And I asked him, I said, "Where the flaming heck are you?" And he calmly responded, "I'm on my way to the plane. I've just had a lovely Bloody Mary in the lounge." You can imagine my language after hearing that. I made the flight with seconds to spare, and I'm the last person on the plane, and there he is sitting in seat 1A, always business class, complete with Panama hat, enjoying another Bloody Mary. And he says, "Oh, there you are, dear boy." Needless to say, it was a very quiet flight. But that was the magic of Crouch. Even when things went wrong, you couldn't stay mad at him for long. He had this incredible talent of turning every misadventure into a story worth telling, a laugh worth having. And now I can hear him saying, "Get on with it, Kaluri." I just want to say this. Crouch was one of a kind, a man of contradictions, gruff yet generous, a curmudgeon, yes, kind and with a heart of gold. A man who guarded his privacy, but also shared stories that made you feel like part of his family. He lived life his way, on his terms, and left an indelible mark on everyone who had the privilege of knowing him. Fortunately, over the past 18 months or so, I was able to visit Crouch many times at Deer Park and spent many hours there reminiscing, as many of you did, singing. He loved to sing. In fact, that was the first thing I would do when I went into his room. I would sing and his just eyes would light up, and laughing. And even better, on a few occasions, I was able to sneak in a bottle of tawny port and some lovely Marks and Spencer's cheeses, which he loved. And on one visit with Alan and Linda, you will recall, Alan also previously brought in some crunchy Croucher pickled onions as well. And we had a lovely, lovely day. By the way, Alan enjoyed the port very much as well. I think he finished most of it off. A good time was had by all, to say the least. So Crouch, you've spun your last disc, you've told your last joke, you've sung your last song, and now you're sailing on your final voyage. with hopefully a fair wind and a following sea. But my friend, your stories, your spirit and your bollocks attitude will live on in all of us. You were the best kind of friend. Loyal, honest, and always up for an adventure and a misadventure. We're going to miss you more than words could say. I think the most appropriate way to end as my old mucker exits the stage is to quote lyrics of a song which he loved by Peter Allen, which, so put your hands together and help him along. All that's left of the singers, all that's left of the song, so stand for the ovation and give him one last celebration. Bon voyage, my old friend. I think Alan's arranged for us to have a short tipple at the... Is it good port?
And she's been on
Just me.
long before your consciousness was raised. Now doesn't that deserve a little praise?
One for the road, love Fagash.
Help her along. All that's left of the singers, all that's left of the song. Stand for the ovation. Give her one last celebration.
Thank you very much. Quite an act to follow, but the best we'll do will be the Lord's Prayer, which isn't a bad effort, is it? Thank you very much, Ray. It's fantastic. We do have the Lord's Prayer together. The words are in the order of service for some of us that may not be familiar with it, but it's the traditional version, so I'm sure some will. I'd like to ask for those that are able to stand, could we stand together, please? Thank you very much, everyone. The Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. I'm going to say the words of commendation and committal, and then after that, immediately after that, our standard bearer will come and bring to us the exhortation. Please join me in your hearts as these few but important words are said. Peter, we have done our best here. We're here remembering you, thanking you. We want to tell you we love you. We want to tell you our lives were better because you were in them. We want to tell you that we're going to miss you, but that the memories we made will continue to be inspirational, positive, and we will never forget them. It's time for us now to commit your body back to the earth, ashes to ashes and dust to dust, in the sure and steadfast hope of the resurrection from the dead by faith in our Lord Jesus Christ. We commit your body. We send you today with our love, and we ask that God would be very gracious, kind, and would bless you. Thank you very much, Peter.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Thank you very much. Thank you. The final part of our service, which you'll see in the order of service, some final words that are going to come from Mark. I'll be reading them on behalf of Mark, and I'll do that in just a moment. Before we do that, just to let you know that as soon as those words are finished, I'll have the privilege, as Ray had, of making a toast. Thank you, Alan, for the port. I do enjoy port. And we will then play You Are the First, the Last, and My Everything, one of Peter's most famous DJing pieces, Christmas parties, New Year's parties. So what we're going to do once that piece starts is wait for a short time, and then myself, our funeral director, Ray, and Mark will all come and bow a final time. The curtain will remain open. And then once we've bowed, the music will continue, but we're then free to head out. And we'll try and, we have to keep something of an eye on the time, so it would be good for us to do our best to make our way reasonably quickly if we could. Please remember, on the back of the order of service, you'll see a thank you and a warm invitation to the Prince Albert, Fabian Witten. The details are there. And a reminder from Mark that you're very close to the St Philip's and St James's church there, which was actually the one that Peter was at when he was young. And so if you want to park there, you're welcome to, and you would enter then through Vicarage Road. So please make a note of that. Also, the QR code, and for those who'd like to make a donation, they're all the details on the back. They were all important parts of Peter's life. I don't want to rush us, just to draw our attention to that. All right, I'm going to say these final words and then a toast on behalf, I think, of the family and everybody here and those that have joined us, and then we'll play our final piece. I want to thank you very much on behalf of the family again for being here. It's been a great privilege for me. Thank you. An uncle and a friend, a man who touched all our lives in many ways. 6 years ago, my role began as a helping hand, shopping, walking around M&S in Teddington, trying to convince Peter that wine and gin weren't the only things he needed to buy. When Uncle Peter's mobility started to fail, the wonders of internet shopping with Sainsbury's saved the day. His stubbornness wasn't just a quirk, it was a defining part of his character. Whether it was about refusing to take the easy way out, or insisting on doing things his own way, or insisting on listening to Celine while she was singing, he taught me the value of standing firm. It often led to spirited debates, laughter, and sometimes some frustration, but those moments were what made our bond unique. Uncle Peter had a remarkable gift for storytelling. His tales, whether rooted in his own experience at sea or the many family tales, had a way of drawing me in. I witnessed not only his tenacity, but also his vulnerability. He allowed me to see the man behind the stories, the individual who, despite his stubbornness, was deeply honourable, kind, generous. These are treasured memories that I will carry with me forever. Though he faced challenges in his later years and months, Uncle Peter was always proud and kind. I would like to thank the team at Deer Park View Care Home for working with me to make sure he was safe and well cared for. For everyone who has made it here today or is watching online with friends as far as Australia and the US, thank you for sharing in this celebration of Peter's life. The entertainer to the end. And remembering him will always make us smile. Rest peacefully, knowing that you are deeply loved and will be profoundly missed. And in the words of Peter, I thank you.
should have made two. Girl, you're my reality, but I've lost another dream. You're the first, you're the last, my endless pain. You and me, baby.
Quiet, please. There's a lady on stage. She may not be the latest rage, but she's singing and she means it. She deserves a little silence. Quiet, please. There's a woman up there, and she's been honest through her songs long before your consciousness was raised. Now doesn't that deserve a little praise? So put your hands together and help her along. All that's left of the singers, all that's left of the song. Stand for the ovation and give her one last celebration. Quiet, please. There's a person up there who's singing of the sins that none of us could bear to hear for ourselves. Give her your respect, if nothing else, and put your hands together and help her along. All that's left of the singers, all that's left of the song. Rise to the occasion, give her one last celebration. Quiet, please. There's a lady on stage. Conductor, turn the final page. When it's over, we can all go home. But she lives on the stage alone. So put your hands together, help her along. All that's left of the singers, all that's left of the song. Stand for the ovation, give her one last celebration. Put your hands together and help her along. All that's left of the singers, all that's left of the song. Right for the ovation and give her one last celebration. Put your hands together, help her along. All that's left of the singers, all that's left of the song. Put your hands together, help her along. All that's left of the singers, all that's left of the song. Stand above the ovation, and won't you give her one last celebration? Put your hands together and help her along. Let's just stay here all night and let's sing every song. Won't you rise to the occasion, and won't you give her one last celebration? Put your hands together, help her say